everyone, and welcome back to Sell More Academy, the mastermind for more sales. My name is Ben McGarry, and for the last 2 decades, I've spent nearly every day trying to figure out how to sell more stuff. I've been in the trenches selling my own products and services for years. I've built teams, companies, and systems that sell from Main Street, small town USA, all the way to Wall Street. And I've been fortunate enough to coach and consult for countless others worldwide, all in totaling over $150 million in sales. During that time, it has become painfully obvious that the marketplace is and always will be loud and noisy. Content creators and social media gurus promote clickbait tactics and short-sighted strategies that often cause more harm than good. It seems like everyone has all the tools at their fingertips these days, but nobody really knows how to put it all together. Plus, what worked yesterday might not work today and will almost certainly be different again by tomorrow. And that's precisely why I started Sell More Academy, to build a community and a set of resources to help you stay ahead of the curve, to help cut through the noise and make sense of your next best step. At Sell More Academy, we focus on what we consider to be the 5 pillars of modern business success: AI, branding, marketing, sales, and systems. We bring this to you through a powerful combination of a vibrant mastermind community where you can connect with and learn from fellow high achievers and experts in the field. Live masterclasses just like this one, where we dive deep into the strategies and tactics of each pillar, covering one per day. A curated collection of resources, including free tools that we're building to help you sell more effectively. And our Sell More directory, connecting you with the pre-vetted providers and solutions that you'll need when it's time to either outsource or just find the right tool for the job. Our goal here is to provide you with everything that you need to not only stay informed and competitive, but to sell a lot more stuff. And that brings us to today's masterclass, where we're diving into marketing. Specifically, we're going to talk about the market message match. For the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to dismantle a concept that has really held way too many entrepreneurs and business owners captive: product market fit. It's a Silicon Valley term that has very little to do with building a real business or how most of our businesses operate. It completely neglects the fact that most businesses need to be profitable, sustainable, and fulfilling. So we're going to replace that with a framework that is actionable, measurable, and customer-centric. A framework that puts you back into control. And by the end of this, you should have a clear step-by-step roadmap to attract the right clients with the right message on the right channels. You shouldn't have to guess anymore. You shouldn't have to chase venture-backed myths that are everywhere. This is a practical system for real growth with your business and your market. So let's dive right into it. You probably heard of this idea of product market fit, but I don't think that most people understand how dangerous it can be to chase this like it's some type of holy grail. What if it's just a myth that's holding you back? We're here today, we're going to talk about something that's better, something that actually works for your business. That's where we're introducing this market message match. Ultimately, it's time to stop chasing this idea that doesn't exist for most of our businesses, and instead to build some very real traction, something that we can scale, something that is predictable and we can grow. So first off, let's talk about who this particular masterclass is for. It's for the builders. not the venture capitalists. That's not our market. If you are a business owner, if you're a coach, a consultant, an agency owner, a freelancer, if you're a bootstrapped founder, you're in the right spot here. If you're trying to raise a Series A or trying to build some billion-dollar unicorn, this is not going to work well for you. You're trying to attract high value clients and deliver amazing results that we can actually help with. This model will not work well for anyone who is in that infinite burn cycle where you just spend and spend and spend until it all clicks. That's not what we're after here. This is for the people who need to sell something today, who need to sell something tomorrow, not 5 years down the road once we've burned through all of our investor capital. This is for those who understand why matching your message to your market is so powerful. But to really get a better idea, we need to understand really where does this concept of product market fit, where did this idea come from and why is it everywhere? Well, as they say, success leaves clues. This has been a very successful model for a lot of very specific companies. Product market fit, it's a term that Mark Anderson coined back in 2007. I believe it was in a blog post, and then it made its way into his book. His definition sounds super reasonable for just about everybody. Being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. That sounds perfect, right? That's what we all want. But here's the real kicker. He was writing for venture capitalists and founders that were building venture scalable companies. This framework assumes that you're building, software that can be replicated infinitely, and that you're raising capital, and that you're chasing just exponential growth. Most of us aren't doing any of that. And that's not a weakness. It's a feature of a different type of business. And so if product market fit isn't what actually works for us, then why does it fail? Right? So if it works for certain companies, why doesn't it work all the time? Why doesn't it work for everyone? Well, the fundamental problem is that it's a lagging indicator that's kind of disguised as a goal. So lagging indicator just means that we only know that we have product market fit when you see the data. It's something that's in the rear view mirror. And by then, for most of us, it's too late to change course if we've been heading in the wrong direction. The hope is that you'll be close enough that you can make minor tweaks, but the chances are that you're so far off that you have to start from scratch. We can think about companies like Webvan. They burned through billions of dollars before realizing that their market wasn't ready for online grocery delivery. Now, we know that every market just about is ready for online grocery delivery. So it wasn't about the product at all. It was about the market message match. Another one would be Jawbone. Jawbone was a wearable tech pioneer that never found consistent product market fit, despite the fact that it had massive funding. I read something that said they burned through almost $1 billion in cash. And what's crazy is they had some of the best products on the market, but they couldn't get the message right. They never got that market message match. Now, none of the pieces of product market fit are really actionable. They don't really tell us what to do today. Instead, it really forces us to focus on our product. Instead of on the customer and the message, we focus on our product. And so we constantly retool. We constantly take feedback from our market on the product, not on what they need or want, but on this one solution. And so we're trying to force our product to fit the market as opposed to matching the market with our message. And that's really what we're going to focus on here. Because if we're focused on the product, it's just flat out the wrong variable for most of us. Now, that's not the case for somebody like a Netflix, right? They knew that they could go in the hole for 8 or 10 or however many years it was, just like Amazon, before seeing a profit. But most of us can't do that. Most of us have bills to pay. Most of us, if we have a company that's not profitable, we're not making money either. It's not like these large mega corporations where there's a large salary that is not tied to the profitability of the company. And so if we want to do something different, we need a framework that will actually work for us. And that is exactly what market message match is. And so as we look through, instead of chasing kind of like this abstract concept, we're going to look at this through a very real framework that we can focus on, we can follow, and we can start to control and measure a little differently. What we're measuring is that alignment, the between the market and our message, and we can see that. We can see how well they match, not as a lagging indicator, but as a leading indicator. We know right away whether or not our message is resonating with our market. We don't have to wait years to see if it works. We could literally measure something like resonance immediately. It is an actionable thing that we can do that will justify and validate whether or not we have a match almost right away. You can control your message, and you can then, because you can control that message, you can focus on being customer centric, meaning this framework will force you to speak the language of your customer, not the language of your product. And that's what seems like maybe a small difference, but it couldn't put these two methodologies further apart. Because when your message actually matches your market, everything changes. It starts to become much easier to sell more stuff. So let's break down kind of the 3 elements that create this alignment across the board. So the 3 M's, they're not difficult, pretty simple here. The 3 elements that are creating unstoppable alignment, well, we just talked about how it's the actionable framework we need. So first and foremost, we need to understand that the market is the most important piece. And so once we have these aligned, we can create just almost unstoppable momentum, but only if we know our market. And so who are you actually trying to reach? What are their pains? What are their desires? Where do they hang out? Who do they trust? Where do they get information? That is what we're focused on for our market. What demand already exists that we can channel? And this is an important distinction between a lot of other people that will come on and talk to us at different times and a lot of different frameworks that exist. We want to think about things in just a little bit different fashion. We want to stay so customer focused that our product is the last thing that we ever talk about. That we're so focused on their outcomes and how they can achieve what they want to do that we just kind of fade into the background. And that seems like something that might be tough for a lot of salespeople. I get that. I really understand the fact that, you got to eat now, the instant gratification. But when we get the market messaging right, or we get the market right, then the messaging becomes easier and that match becomes almost automatic. So we want to really dive in and study our market. Next, our message. What story are we telling them? What transformation are we offering? What language makes our market feel understood? This is so critical because we're not talking about our widget or the benefits of our widget. We're only talking about our market and using the language that they want to help them understand the transformation that they will get. And then third, our media. And so our match is really the media that we use, the channels and the platforms that we use to deliver the right messages consistently and repeatedly. And so match really comes down to making sure that we pick the right places to find our market and deliver our message. If we miss on any one of these, we just end up spinning our wheels. And that is such a critical component to remember, that you cannot skip steps whenever we're focused on core elements. And so to get our message right, we have to very clearly understand the market. We have to very clearly get our message across. And then we have to match to the right channels and really into the right method for distributing that. And so what I mean by that is that could be not just selecting that most of my customers are on Facebook, but that when they're on Facebook, they talk like this in these particular groups. And so I want to make sure that I match that. So let's kind of take a look at the roadmap to put some of these M's, these elements into practice. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go obviously well from the theory side of things into kind of a practical step-by-step guide here. But to do that, we're going to start by diving deep into the market. Okay. And so I think that most of you that know me know that research is the superpower that I lean on the most. And so the deeper that you can get into the market and understand them, find the things that are hidden that they don't say to salespeople, that they don't say to marketers, those are the things that are going to help you later. Then we'll craft your core message. After that, we're going to test the message. That's the beautiful part about this methodology is that we can test it and get immediate feedback instead of having to wait with those lagging indicators to find out we missed the mark later. We're able to iterate and make adjustments almost on the fly. And then finally, we'll build that match, which is kind of our media strategy. And by the end of this, if you follow these steps, you should always have a clear path forward. Very, very simple. Do the research, craft the message, test it, small batch testing it, and then you go and put it out in the right channels and measure it. See what works, see what doesn't. Come back, iterate. This is a very, very straight through process. And sometimes when the process is too easy, we start to skip steps. So instead, I want to walk through each one of the steps to make sure that we understand the importance and how to carry out each of these pieces. Because we don't want to have yet another framework that sits on the shelf and does us no good. This one is designed to make sure that we make money and that our clients or our market wins as quickly as possible. So let's kick things off here. Let's dive into the market and handle step one. So step one of our process here is to define the market. This all starts with who. And the truth of this is you just can't hit a target that you are not aiming for. And that seems so obvious when we talk about a bow and arrow or a gun, right? But we don't think about that with our business. If there is no target set, then how do you know where to aim? And so our market is not everyone, it's a specific person. And we'll call this the ideal customer avatar, which is a very common terminology that's used throughout marketing and sales. But there are a lot of other names there. So if you're calling it something else instead of an ideal customer avatar, that's perfectly fine. We're not getting into semantics here. Really, what we're looking for is to be the opposite of generalists. We want to be specialists in our messaging. And so ultimately, the goal is to be as plain and as simple as we can for a specific set of people. So to build a powerful ICA or ideal customer avatar, you need to nail three things. First thing that you need to know is their primary pain point. What is costing them time or money or peace of mind right now? What's keeping them up? What is the primary pain point? That's the first piece. The second piece, would be their secondary desires. And now I'm going to pause on this for a second because this seems to be where particularly salespeople don't speak the same language as marketers. Marketers are often trained in this, in second order thinking. And so we're talking about the secondary desires. Yes, of course, they want to make more money. Why do they want to make more money? Salespeople will often, not always, will often think very logically here. Well, they need more money so they can pay more bills or so they can hire more people or whatever. Marketers will tend to think about things in the more of the feelings based because they should be ideally more focused on the customer than the sale. And so just keep in mind that the shift should be more toward the marketing side, focusing on those secondary desires. What outcomes do they want just beyond just solving that immediate pain that they're in, the thing that they say to you? Just understand that there are always things behind the surface that we hold back from others. And so others will also hold those back from us. Our job is to determine what those secondary desires are. We don't have to draw them out or make them admit it, but we do need to understand what are the underlying motives that are causing this, or that this pain is causing them to either miss out on, or whatever the case may be for their unique situation. And the third thing that we're looking for is we want to know where they congregate. Where do they get together? Where do they spend their time, their attention? Is it online? Is it offline? Do they go to a book club? Do they join master classes? Where are they and where can you find them? There are more places online than just Google and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. There's more than that. There's more than just social media channels. And so assuming that, well, my audience is a little older, so they're going to be on Facebook, you might get lucky with that, but that's more of a stab in the dark than it is real research. Real research may say that, yes, while a good portion of the demographics I'm looking for are on Facebook, the actual psychoanalysis shows me that the people I want to talk to, they're not spending their time on Facebook. I want to work with high performers. I want to work with those who are leading others. I want to work with those who collaborate well with others. Finding social media gurus is probably not a good fit for me because while they may fit the demographics, they don't meet the psychographics that I'm looking for. So the deeper that I can understand my ideal customer avatar, the better all of this moves. The more powerful our message will become, the better it will resonate or match with our market. And ultimately, the better that our market will be served. But the truth is that even when you're really, really locked in on your ICA, there's another layer to understand. We've actually covered this in other master classes if you've been here for the whole time. And that is their awareness level. So when we understand, first we need to understand who our market is, and then we need to understand their market awareness level. And so we'll just cover these quickly. We've gone through it before. Here at Sell More Academy, we believe in 7 stages of market awareness, which builds on the 5 original stages from Eugene Schwartz. We have added in the symptom aware stage and the pain aware stage to our model. And so the first thing is to, like I said, understand your ideal customer avatar, but we need to meet them wherever they are in their journey. We have to find them, not bring them to us. And that's where these market awareness levels start to come in. Your message must match their reality. Most businesses make, just a huge mistake here. They'll either try to sell a solution to someone who's only symptom aware, and that's a huge danger zone. Or they will, they'll talk about the pain to somebody who's completely unaware. And there's just a disconnect there because we need to move through this process as consumers. And whether it's through a sales process, a marketing process, AI branding, whatever the case may be, we need to be able to respect those awareness levels and move people to the next one, not to jump ahead 5, but to move to the next one. And that's how we stay out of that danger zone. That's how we allow people to come to their own conclusions and not feel sold, but to guide them along that path. So we need to really, really understand if they're unaware, symptom aware, problem aware, pain aware, solution aware, or even provider aware, because this is going to dictate how you speak to them. Again, I've brought up in the past that, I have a bucket, which I learned from Gary Halbert, a bucket of spam mail, the stuff that you guys probably just throw out when it shows up in your mailbox. I keep all of that, not all of it. I keep a lot of that. And I do so mainly for this part, for the different market awareness levels. And so the example that I'll give you is that we all receive, or at least here in the States, we all receive probably at least weekly some type of advertisement from a grocery store in the mail. It shows the different specials that they're having this week, or maybe it's this month, right? They're showing the different specials that they have there. What they don't go into is a long story about where these strawberries came from, who got the idea to grow the strawberry, how that they went through a hero's journey and faced challenges and struggles and then found a guide along the way to help them bring strawberries to the free world. Like we don't need that whole story. If we want strawberries, we know we want strawberries. We know this place has strawberries. We're already symptom aware, problem aware, pain aware, solution aware, and provider aware. We're maybe even most aware. I know the 4 or 5 grocery stores that are in my town. And so all I'm looking for there when I'm in this ready to buy state is give me the deal. Show me a picture of a strawberry that looks pretty and a really pretty price to go with it. And we're sold. I don't need a whole story to go along with it. The more unaware they are, the higher up this market awareness they go, the more work you have to do. Your copy has to do, your messaging has to do, all of that, because you're going to, like I said, move them from one step to the next. Now, a lot of people will take this because it's easier and they try to jump straight to the solution, provider, or most aware stages, which is fine. I actually always encourage people when they're starting out to start there and then move your way backward, because that's your lowest hanging fruit. The kicker is everybody competes for the lowest hanging fruit. So that may become some of your most expensive acquisition that you ever have, but you can learn a lot from it. Because whoever becomes a customer was at one point a perfect prospect and was at one point just a suspect. And so you can start to figure out the process they went through to get to you once you have that customer. So once you understand their awareness, you can really start to craft messages that truly resonate. And let's take a look at just a couple ways that we can go about that. So one of the top ways is always going to be the research side of things. And again, you've heard me preach about this before. I'm not going to stop at any time soon. So the first thing that we want to do, first kind of method, is what I would call mining for gold. Here, this is probably one of the super hacks that I've come up with in my life that allows me to sit into a lot of rooms where maybe I don't have maybe I don't have all of the credentials to sit in that room, or I don't know, the pedigree to sit in that room, whatever you want to say. There's rooms that I probably shouldn't have deserved to have been in, but because I do this so well, they thought I was an expert, maybe more so than them. And so this isn't about deception or anything. This is really about understanding the market that well. And so we don't want to guess what they think or what they feel or how they feel. Instead, we want to steal their words, their exact words. We live in a digital age where everybody says too much online, right? Everybody will go online and just, whether it's through an anonymous account or a real account, we're willing to give our opinions to folks on the internet. Well, for us, that is a huge advantage. The first place I like to start is always with reviews. And so we want to look at the 1-star reviews and we want to look at the 5-star reviews. That's the first place to start. Those are the obvious ones, right? We want to see what people are happy about, of course, but we want to see what people are really unhappy about next. And the idea there is to look for the exact words and phrasing that they use because they're probably not using your industry jargon. They're probably not using your profession jargon. I'll give you a good example of this. Just a few days ago, we added a new part to our a new example to our bad swipes lessons that are part of the mastermind here. Somebody reached out to me and said, since you're a decision maker, should I talk to you about this? Decision maker is not a title that I wear. That is not my job. That is not my role. And while I may like the idea of being a decision maker, that is industry talk. Actually, I won't even say that's industry talk. That is profession talk. Industry talk is something that's specific to your type of business. Profession talk is specific to the type of profession that you're in. And so, you could be a marketer that happens to be in manufacturing. This was a sales and business development person who was in something else. And so watch out for those phrasing. And you can do that by reading through the reviews. Reviews will tell you when people get confused, when they get lost. Literally, it's just about everything that you could need. If there was one bit of research to do, start with reviews, and you're going to be leagues ahead of most people. Now, don't skip the 2s and 3s and 4s, but if you have a limited number of time, go to the 1s and 5s. But those 2s and 3s and 4s are really, really impactful because most of the 1s, there's a good chance that you can't flip them. But the 2s and 3s and 4s, there's usually some good there. There's just something that's missing, and they will tell you what they're missing. I rated this a 3 because of this, this, and this. Pay attention to the words that they use. Next, we go to forums and groups. Reddit is probably the best at this, depending on the industry that you're in. Next, we have Quora, which is kind of, they're super solid. I guess not as many people know them, but very, very similar to Reddit. And then we have Facebook groups that, I don't think there's anything that's been quite as successful as Facebook groups when it comes to putting people together and giving them an open space to talk. Now, there's other platforms that are off, not that aren't social, like School or Circle or Mighty Networks or things like that, or even Go Collab, where you can go in and find groups. But the point is that your people congregate somewhere. And if you get in there and don't try to sell them, but just listen and absorb, you will learn things that others just won't ever pick up on. You'll also learn some things that that are very, very, very almost private to the industry, meaning there will be certain phrases that get shared back and forth. There'll be certain memes and GIFs that get shared back and forth, funny videos that really represent the feeling and the symbolism of that particular group. And so you can extract a lot of that. And then the final piece would be comment sections. But I shouldn't say final. There are a million ways that you can go about mining for gold here, but these are kind of the top 3. So any type of comment sections, YouTube and viral posts are really, really good ones because you'll see all the feedback, right? Every time there's a good post, there's going to be negative comments on it. Every time there's something negative, you're going to have positive people on it. So you're just looking for the difference in the language there, not just as a whole. If your avatar is female, look for female language there. You're going to look at the male language as well, so you can tell what not to use, that masculine language. Use feminine language, right? And so if it's an adult as opposed to an adolescent, right? Like you want to just continue to refine that down so that you can find exactly how your avatar is talking. The goal would be to build your own swipe file of good things, not the bad things, but of the good things, of the exact market, the phrases that your market uses, how they talk, what they share. They could be the pictures, they could be the gifts, whatever they need to be. We don't want to paraphrase and put this into our own terminology. We want to straight copy what they said because that is going to make it into our work. So let's move to the next bit, which is going to be the interview. Now, not everybody is going to be able to do interviews or want to do interviews, but I highly recommend it. This is really one of the best ways that you'll ever get feedback in an honest way. And so I like to use this magic wand technique because if you just go ask people for feedback or, just tell me what you thought or give me your thoughts on this, you really don't get good responses. And so what I like to do is I like to, either just introduce myself in a research way and say, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm building X, Y, and Z, be very honest about it. And I just need some advice or I need some feedback to make sure that we don't go down the wrong path. More people than not will be willing to help you. Some still feel like they're going to be sold and they'll dismiss you, and that's fine. They don't matter in this context. But some people will help you, and that will further develop you so much farther along than really you could do on your own. And then some of the other ways that we can kind of ask that is, what is the single biggest challenge you're facing right now with whatever this topic is? What have you already tried to fix it? What doesn't work? And then the magic wand piece. So if you could wave a magic wand and just fix one thing, what would that one thing be? That gives us an opportunity to really lock in on the specific problems that we need to address. And so use that magic wand question very tactfully and carefully, but genuinely. Make sure that you genuinely want to know and that it's not just manipulation, because just like everything, you could use every bit of this in the wrong context and end up hurting yourself and other people. So instead, what you want to do is you want to figure out what would a magic wand look like, and then you want to see if you can go build that magic wand for them. That's the objective. Okay, so step 2, we covered step 1, which is to really dive into our market. Now it's time to start to craft our core message. And this is where you're going to write the message that makes them say, hey, that's me. That's the objective. Oh, that's me. I'm that person. That's going to make us stop. And so an easy way that you can do this is with this problem solution proof formula. It's not the only formula that's out there, but it is a very, very solid one. So in the problem, we want to use their exact language. And then we want to introduce the solution, which is the transformation that we offer. So it's not the car or the widget or the software that we sell. It is the transformation that we offer. And then finally, we want to provide proof that it works. And so the core message should really just be one powerful sentence. And this is what we're going to build a lot of our other messaging off of. So think about the examples that we've kind of already seen here, but it's how to scale your e-commerce brand to 5 million without burning out or losing your margins. Well, that sounds pretty good, right? How to cut operational costs by 20% in 90 days without disrupting your team. Those are huge pieces, right? And so we're talking about the problem there. So scale is a problem. If people can't scale, if they're burning out, if they're losing margins, those are problems that they would be saying. The solution is what we're offering here. We're going to help them to scale that without those problems. And then the proof that it works is something that we would use throughout our site. We could also say, something like we've done for 5 others, right? If you wanted to have this sentence be a little longer. But ultimately, this isn't necessarily something that goes to market. This is something that will guide your messages that go to market. So your core message becomes kind of the root of everything else that will follow. It becomes the North Star for you. So when we're actually taking that and turning it into a message that goes to the market, we don't need to reinvent the wheel and be creative. There are tons of proven frameworks throughout copywriting that work. So if you already know where your market is, where your ICP, you know their level of awareness. Well, now we also have our North Star for our problem solution proof kind of formula there. Well, now what we want to do is transform that into a message that can go out to them. And so some of these that you've probably seen, if you're not familiar with the actual name of the frameworks here, well, you've definitely read the posts. This might ruin social media for you altogether if this is new, but one of the biggest ones is PAS, problem, agitation, solution. You're going to identify the problem, which is their problem, not your problem. Then we're going to twist the knife to agitate the pain. And then we're going to present your solution as what seems to be the only logical relief for them. and so on with AIDA, which is probably one of the most famous, and that's grab attention. That's where we'll see those clickbait headlines often. We want to build interest. I believe that we build interest with facts, not with just claims. This says create desire, but truthfully, we are channeling desire with benefits. We will adjust that, but we are channeling desire, not creating desire. And then we are forcing some type of action, giving them a call to action that is very clear and easy for them to take advantage of. We also have the before after bridge, and then we have the for use. There are so many copywriting frameworks out there that they apply to different use cases that need to be mix and match depending on the different market. And sometimes you may use all four of these or five or six of these in different contexts on different channels to meet your audience. So just keep in mind that, for instance, the for use may work better on LinkedIn as an example than the before after bridge does. Before after may work better on X because it's shorter and it's to the point of transformation right away. So just kind of play with that, look at the frameworks that you see being used, and then you can just reverse engineer those and fill your own gaps in. So again, just make sure that regardless of what you're using, you're not just listing what you do, you are really you're giving them the message that they need in their words so that they understand it. That's what real market message match means, is making sure that it's in their language so they understand the process and they can make the best decisions. When you craft this message this way, you're really not selling them. You're just showing them a path. And some people are going to take that path and some will automatically decide it's not for them. So you get to focus your time on the ones that say, this is a path for me. So we know how to get a message together now. Again, there are tons of frameworks you can use. Find the one that fits the situation that you're in. But how do we get this message out there to the right spot? Well, first thing we got to do is we need to test it. So we don't want to just launch it into the void because that can get very expensive. If you've ever talked to a company about marketing, they usually want to ask about the budget right away. Well, that's because it's scary to figure out if it's going to work. And that's not what we're going to do. We're going to test it first, not to find, perfection. It's about finding some resonance before we scale. Meaning if it doesn't resonate with our customer, we're not going to put more dollars behind it. We're going to tweak and iterate until we get it right, and then we can put more dollars behind it, which is the complete opposite of product market fit. They will put more dollars behind it until they find it, but we don't have that never-ending bank account to operate with. So for us, we're going to start small. We could spend $100 in a day and find out immediately whether or not our message works. That's faster than just about every single methodology that's out there. So paid tests work really, really well. And you can use a very small budget to see if people will actually click through and actually convert for you. Then you have your email list. Now, if you have an active and engaged email list, this could be your best friend because you know that once you hit this, first off, they should be expecting something from you. If it's not an engaged email list, then maybe this isn't the best route for you. But we want to know, what was the open rate? Do people actually care about this? Are they replying? Are they clicking through? What is going on with the email side of things? That's how we can test whether or not the market works before throwing a bunch of money into it. And then finally, we have social media, right? Most, if not all, social media platforms for us to post are free, or at least have a free version. So this allows us to check and see, what is the engagement like? Now, don't chase the vanity metrics. Nobody cares how many likes there were, or shares, or anything like that. Of course, if you have something that takes off, you have a good indication that there's something there. But remember that a lot of people will see your content and will go do something, go take action, remember it, tell somebody, and you will never know about it. So you're putting this stuff out there, and then you're able to kind of see how the market responds as a whole, as opposed to an individual like you could with maybe an email test or even a paid test. So just understand that the social side is going to be a little sloppier because there's so many vanity metrics that we don't really care about or need to chase. And some of those comments that you're going to get are not going to be super helpful. Sometimes people just want to get on there and tear things down and be a troll, and it's the perfect opportunity for them to do so. So don't go changing just because you get one or two bits of bad feedback, but pay attention to each piece and figure out if there's anything legitimate there that you need to carry forward, or you just dismiss it. So once you have it there, you're really trying to figure out this feedback loop as quickly as possible. If you can get feedback back on the same day, phenomenal. Run small tests so that you can do so. Keep in mind things that could happen, right? People, maybe your list is on vacation, maybe it's a holiday, whatever the case may be. Just understand that the feedback loop could be off just slightly depending on your particular market. Then once you're ready, you will refine it. And finally, then and only then, you are ready to scale and build out the full-blown media strategy. Now, step 4 here is to create that match. We want to have consistency and repetition, because these are the things that create momentum for us. This is like, I bring up billboards all the time. Which billboard made you buy? Probably none of them, but the consistency and repetition of them started to drill that company or that offer into your head, or maybe even that outcome into your head, until finally the right thing came along and you took action. So this is about taking our message that has been tested and that is already resonating with people and getting it out there and being consistent. We don't have to be everywhere. We don't need to cover every single billboard and every park bench, but we need to cover the ones where our people drive past and where they sit. That is about really focusing on where our ideal client actually pays attention. Think of this a little bit like Amazon in the early days. They were burning cash like crazy. If you go look at their statements, it was wild. Nobody really knew for sure if they were going to make it, but they were relentlessly focused on the customer experience and the delivery channels. They knew their market and they built their entire media system around it. And that's what you need. You need a system, not just random acts of content that goes out there. So first, you are going to pick your primary channels. The primary are going to be 1 to 2, maybe on a crazy instance, 3 channels that your audience, your ideal customer avatar, where they spend their time, not where they should, but where they actually spend their time. Now, for places like B2B, LinkedIn is kind of usually like a non-negotiable, and email is almost always essential, but you still have to do those research pieces. Don't just guess. Then you want to map out your 90-day content calendar. This isn't necessarily a content masterclass, so we're not going to go deep into the 90-day content calendar. Just plan your content according to the type of content that your people consume. You don't have to create something unique every single time. Look at what they already buy, what they already engage with, what they already work on, and look for ways that you can model that, not copy that, but model that to fit your brand, your business, your offer. Then we want to measure everything. We want to track our leads, our conversions, our customer acquisition costs. We want to double down on the things that work, and we want to adjust or cut what isn't working. This is how we can build that momentum and then keep it going. Because once we get this right, everything else in our business really accelerates. When we're looking at different channels, there are a few different places you can go. It seems almost endless, but we just want to figure out how do we get it in front of our market. So we don't have to be everywhere. We just need to be where they are and where they're actually paying attention. So think about how, we'll just stick with Netflix, how they started with DVDs because that's what was working in the market, right? Blockbuster was doing that. And then they strategically moved over to streaming, adapting to where their audience was. So they didn't invent streaming. They saw streaming becoming the way, and they moved their exact same product in front of the audience where the audience was moving to. And so we have 3 main types of media here that we're going to focus on, and that would be owned, like your email list or your website, where you have total control. If Zuckerberg shut down Meta tomorrow, it doesn't impact your website, your blog, your email list, your community, your podcast, any of that. You own that data. Then there's the earned stuff like referrals or press. This is the stuff that builds a ton of goodwill, that builds credibility, that makes people actually want to do business with us. And then finally, we have paid media like ads. This is really that scale, that targeted outreach, and the speed of it, like we said, for testing. So this allows us to make sure that we get to the point where we have that system that we say, oh, I put $1 in and two came out. So now I'm going to put two in to get four out. And so we can just keep kind of running with that. So paid provides that opportunity that the other channels don't consistently. So we have to understand that we need to show up consistently across the right channels, right? One email isn't enough and one social post isn't enough. We need to have a message that is consistent across all. Now, that doesn't mean we say the exact same thing. Consistency is about our values. It's about the outcome that they're going to get. It's about the messaging and the reinforcement that we give. It's not about the features and the products or saying the same exact word for word over and over. It's about reiterating why this is the right choice. So this consistency continues to push us forward. It's kind of like compounding interest for consistency is almost like compounding interest for sales operations. So when we look at compounding, we have resonance. So we're making sure that our clients feel understood and that our close rates improve. We're looking at the results. So we have better fit clients, get better outcomes. Our reputation, happy clients refer other people. Upset clients don't do that. So the social proof ends up growing on top of that. And then our reach. The more proof we have, it fuels our marketing and our cost of acquisition will actually drop. It makes it much easier to understand once we have understand how to grow, once we have this whole flywheel moving in our favor. So let's move to our key takeaways here as we wrap this up. The principles of market message match would be number one, to just forget product market fit. Unless you're a VC backed company or that is your goal, it is a lagging indicator and it is not for you. Please do not listen to venture capitalists about how to run a company that is not a venture capital company. Instead, focus on that market message match, which is a leading indicator that you can make a change on. You can control that today. Then you're going to align those three M's: your market, who they are, your message, what you're going to say, and the match, where you need to meet them for this to all work together. And then the other key takeaway is to match their awareness level. Obviously, this has come up in multiple masterclasses for a reason, because it's so vitally important that every one of our actions follows the awareness level of our audience. If they are unaware, it will take a ton of education to get them ready to buy. If they are ready to buy, a ton of education might take them out of the market. And that's very important to understand. So you do your deep dive, you craft your message, you test it, and then you're going to go out and create that match. And so finally, as we wrap up, you guys all know how much I value the words that came from Peter Drucker. And he said the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well the product or service fits him and sells itself. And that is the goal of market message match. We do not want to force or convince people to buy from us. We want to make this an easier process. We want to understand our customer so well that our solution becomes the only logical solution and it sells itself. We want customers to move through the process on their own accord instead of us moving them through our sales process. This is really the essence of having a market message match. When you get this alignment right, everything changes. Your business transforms, truly becomes something that is predictable and way more sustainable. I'll leave you with one last example. When you're doing your homework on great brands, please look into Oatly. Oatly. They are a wonderful example of keeping their North Star in place, throughout all the different messages that they send out. They've done physical ads, they've done digital ads, and no matter where or when you find them, you know it's Oatly when you see it, when you see them. They meet their customers where they are. It is a wonderful example of doing this right. And I highly encourage everyone to do their best to try to follow along. But that wraps up today's masterclass. This is one of the most critical components that has helped me sell and has helped anybody that I've worked with sell a lot more stuff. Because once we get this idea of venture capital advice out of our head and stop focusing on our product and start focusing on the market, well, everything becomes easier. And that's our goal. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you want to challenge anything that we've said today and you're watching in the class vaults, please drop that right below in the comments. If you want to, though, bring this into the mastermind. We can talk about this inside the marketing channel. I would love to go more in depth with you to talk about what's working in your market and what's not, and to help you find clarity. Because if we get this right, then we all win together. That's it for today. Everybody go have a wonderful day. Put this into action and go sell more stuff.